Hi, I'm Lee. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. Wow, 1 year's amazing. I can't believe I actually made it. I think just thank you firstly to my higher power, who I call God. Without God, I could have definitely not made it to where I am today. It seems like a miracle to me, and I'm just very grateful for His love and His forgiveness and His mercy to me. 37 years of being an alcoholic and a drug addict, it seemed like forever, and it's now about changing my whole thought pattern and changing my life. And the most beautiful thing of being 1 year clean for me is it's an awesome path of discovery, of getting to know myself and getting to know who I really am, and probably not fearing to be me, you know, the real me, the true me. And that true me is somebody who's actually very scared and very, very fearful of almost everything, you know. And that's what I'm learning is I'm fearful of what people think of me. I'm fearful to not be cool enough. I'm fearful not to be good enough. Huge affirmation seeking. And the longer I stay clean, the more prevalent these behaviors become. And the more blatantly obvious it is, it's not the alcohol and the drugs, it's me. And the further I get away from that last drink, the more I see that. Like when I first discovered that it was a disease, or heard it was a disease, I thought, oh, cool. Like, it's kind of like an excuse, you know. I've got something. I'm different. It's a disease. How cool is that? But after 1 year clean, it's not so cool. It's like, wow, this is actually something that's so real, and the mental obsession that goes with that can drive me to levels of insanity, you know. I think recently something at work happened, and where a normal person would be able to just blow that thing off, I obsessed insanely it took me 3 weeks to get over just something so small. But I'm grateful for that, because it makes me think, well, I really do have this problem, and I need to sort it out, and I need to work through it. And it's a massive character defect of mine. I think if I start at the beginning, it's the best place to start, I suppose. A lot of people say maybe they were born made alcoholic, maybe due to circumstances they were alcoholic, or certain things happened along the way that turned them to find their solution in drugs and alcohol, where I believe now that I was just destined to be an alcoholic. It doesn't matter what life I was born in, white, black, blue, green, male, female. I was destined to walk this journey. I was destined to be an alcoholic and a drug addict. But I know that it's also my destiny to change that. You know, I suppose my goal and my vision is I want to die clean, because I can't go back. You know, my life, sometimes my disease, I get this little thought in the back of my head that says, you weren't that bad, you know, you're okay. And then like I look back on certain moments and I cringe. I want to get sick in my stomach. The things that I did, I get that gentle reminder, but that's the disease playing tricks on me, just waiting for me, waiting to pounce. And I know the only way I can stay clean for a lifetime is to work this program day by day and talk to others, you know. I'm very blessed, because now that there's whenever there's a problem, I've got lots of people to speak to, you know. I've got meetings to go to, people to speak to, and it's not like I've got one or two people. I'm very lucky. God, when I left rehab, I lost my job. I was kind of fired. Yeah, fired. And I had nowhere to go, and I got like a small package, like half a month's salary, and I had 2 weeks to find a job. And I didn't know where the next check was coming in. I had no one to fall back on, no one to lend any more money from. I had borrowed and stolen all the money from everybody that I'd come into contact from. And I had 2 weeks to find a job. And sure as hell, I found a job. And it's just down the road, you know. And so my whole family moved to Pennington, close to Scottsboro. And it's allowed me to not only have a job, but in a perfect like environment for me, because it's very quiet, nobody stays there, but I'm also so close to the fellowship. You know, when I'm in trouble, I can phone 5 or 6 people and just talk my way through it. and eventually I come out. That's my solution, is the people in these rooms, which I'm very grateful for. I think the first signs of me being an alcoholic would probably be when I was 6 years old, if I look back at it now. I used to always run away from school, so I ran away from school at 6. I'm an only child. It's just me and my mom. My dad left my mom before I was born. And then my mom, that was in Zimbabwe. And then we moved to South Africa, moved to Pietermaritzburg. And whatever school she put me in, I ran away. I used to walk 7, 8 kilometers at 6 years old just to get away. The other signs would be I'm a very jealous person. Before the alcohol, there was a lot of anger. So I was jealous that other people had a mother and a father. I was jealous that other people had brothers and sisters. I was jealous that I wore Tommy tackies and slops and the other kids wore Nikes. And if I couldn't buy it from you, I would steal it from you. And I used to collect all these other kids' stuff at school at home. Stupid. In fact, I just used to steal stuff for the fact of stealing it. I remember stealing a cricket bat because I think he had a grey Nichols and I didn't have one, and I stole it, but I could never use it because we were in the same team, so it just stayed in my cupboard. So if I couldn't have it, at least he couldn't have it, you know. So just crazy behavior like that. And then I think a definite outlet before the drugs and alcohol, I always used to lose my temper a lot. Lots of fighting, stupid things, breaking windows, breaking into houses, stealing street lamps, street signs, that kind of crazy stuff. From about 14, I think, when I had my first drink, it was just total oblivion. There was never like have a few drinks, get dizzy. It was just get drunk as quickly as possible. Get drunk, throw up, drink again, and carry on like that. Then I started using my drug of choice then at such a young age. And again, it wasn't like just have a little bit of drugs and park off. It was just like how much can I get as quickly as possible just to get as wasted as possible. And because of that behavior, I had to leave school at like 16, 17. So I didn't finish my schooling. I moved to South Africa, to Ikopo. And all my mother's brothers are alcoholics and drug addicts, and my whole father's, his 7 brothers and sisters are alcoholics and drug addicts as well. Half of them are dead. And I came down to stay with my uncle, and that's kind of like where I went to school for using drugs with him. Just a massive pattern of usage. Had a fallout with him, then I moved to Botswana at about 19, moved in with my dad. My dad was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and I was drinking and using with my dad. Had a big fight with my dad. Moved in with my mom. I had a fight with my dad because he didn't use like Class A drugs. He used Class C drugs and drank every day. So when he found out I was using Class A drugs, we had this massive fight, and I never spoke to him again. I never saw him again to this day. So I moved to Zimbabwe to be with my mother. She sent me to a rehab. I went to a rehab up in Harare, and I was the only white guy there. And on the first day, I think after 2 weeks, a guy got stabbed. And I phoned my mom and I said, "Mom, I found Jesus. I'm cured. I'm fine. I'll be okay." And so I went back home, and I think I stayed sober for like 2 weeks, and then it just went out of control again until my mom kicked me out the house. And I thought, well, my dad doesn't want me, my mom doesn't want me, but obviously I'm the one creating all of this stuff. So I moved to England, and there I had no responsibility. Nobody knew me. I had a girlfriend at the time. I moved in with her, and just what I thought at the time was sex, drugs, and rock and roll and fun. Very quickly, like, the party stopped. You know, after 3 or 4 years, the party stops and it's just you in a room, you know, sitting there using and drinking by myself. And that was 10 years ago, you know. If I think at the time I was with the woman, I was with her for 7 years. We had a child. She gave birth to my son Sebastian. She couldn't put up with me, obviously. I was never there for her. I was verbally abusive to her. I drained her emotionally, spiritually, and she couldn't have me anymore. We had just had a baby, and she didn't want me in her life. And now I don't blame her. You know, his life would have just been an absolute wrecking ball had he grown up with me in that state. I remember we went to the airport, and she asked me to sign a letter for him to go to New Zealand on holiday. And I signed the letter. I said, no problem, go for 6 months. Well, let's clear our heads and we'll sort things out maybe. And in the back of my mind, I kind of knew that when I saw them go off in the pram, I'll never forget that moment. I looked at him and we waved goodbye to each other. And I knew that I'd never see him again. You know, but instead of that kind of motivating me to get sober, I remember walking to the bus, catching the bus back to Reading, the town where I stayed. And while I was in the bus, I remember the chain of thought going through my mind was, I'm going to show them. You know, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. The gloves are off now, the chains are off, and I'm going to rock this town like there's nothing. I'd got rid of any form of responsibility, the tiny little bit of responsibility that I thought that I had, and I just went balls to the wall. And again, what started out as like a 2-3 week party turned into something that was very sad. You know, I remember sitting in the lounge watching the A-Team on a Monday night off my face. And I remember thinking, this is not right, I need help. You know, who does this on a Monday night? You know, this is stupid, it's crazy, I've got work in the morning, how do I do this? And it never got better from there. It just got worse. Worse and worse and worse and worse. And it was, the last 10 years was just insane. This constant fight inside my mind, my intentions and my reality completely in an absolute shambles, in an absolute mess. Moving from job to job. I'm very lucky that during that period of insanity, I met my wife, Chin. I don't know what she saw in me, to be honest with you. More importantly, I don't know how she's still with me, and I'm so blessed that she didn't leave me. She never gave up on me. She says she always saw a side of me that she liked, but she probably only saw that side of me 5 minutes in the week, you know. But she held on, and she stuck by me, and she's also the main reason why I'm sober today. Chin started going to Al-Anon about 2 years before I found the rooms. And I would go to the toilet, and there would be the AA book, or I'd go, before I jump into bed at night, there'd be a pamphlet on my pillow, and just like things everywhere, and you know, I think, so we've met, she stuck with me, Chin fell pregnant, we got married. I think it was around that time I got addicted to a really hectic drug at that stage, lost a lot of my back teeth because of it. Sorry, I'm losing thought here. It was around that time as well, probably early 30s, that I found out that my dad had died. Obviously, I'd just gone on this 10-year drinking drug spree, and I found out that my dad had died. And it hurt to the point that I thought that even on his deathbed, he couldn't call me. You know, I found out after they had buried him. Later, when I spoke to my sister or half sister, she told me that they couldn't find me, and you know, he didn't want me to see him in that state. And again, not using that as like a wake-up call, you know, just using that as further justification. I'm just like, any bit of sadness that happened to me, I kind of gather it up, and I was like, right, now I've got more. I can load my gun more so that I've got more justification and blaming and excuses to use more, to drink more, because my life is so sad. My parents don't like me. Nobody likes me. My father died. Now I can do what I want. You know, you can't argue with me. This is the way I am. And I used to even say to my wife, I'm an alcoholic. I don't have a problem with it. You're the one with the problem. You've got to deal with it. You know, it's selfish madness, you know. And it was around about that time, though, a lot of my friends started dying as well. A lot of the guys I was using with, a few suicides, car accidents. A very close family member of mine drowned in front of the whole family. But instead of, and all these things happened while we were drunk and high, you know. No wake-up call there, just justification to use for more sadness for me, you know. Before I came into the house about 3 years ago, after my wife was leaving all these messages around the house, I thought, let me go into the rooms. And I went into the rooms up in Hillcrest, and I saw our friend Philly from Cape Town share. And he had an amazing share. And I went home and I said to my wife, don't worry, I'm not an alcoholic or a drug addict. That guy's a drug addict. I'm fine. And what happened about 3 weeks after that, the guy that I was managing this business with, we were going to go into a partnership with, we were doing so much dodgy stuff, and I phoned him. I actually wanted sole control of the business. So my way to wangle him out was to tell him, listen, there's going to be this massive investigation and they're coming for you. And that was very evil of me to do that. And the next day he didn't pitch up to work, so I drove to his house and he committed suicide. And I put his body onto the bed, and half an hour later I was high. You know, I got what I wanted. I was in sole position to be sole owner or sole business partner for this other group that we were trying to sign up with, and a lot of guilt went into there, but also I know he would have, now today I know he would have committed suicide eventually, whatever the case is, and it wasn't my fault. But again, that's just more justification for me, you know, just to build this big sad story for myself so that I can use more and carry on going. But that was like such a low point in my life. That's the depth that I go to when I'm doing drugs and alcohol, you know. I will sell my mother for $5. That's how sad and that's how ridiculous I am. And that's why I can never go back. That's why I never want to go back. Because of those moments that I look at. Eventually I managed to come to the house. I think before I came into the house, it was everyday usage. But I pushed it hard just before I came in. It took me 3 days to get out of bed just to come here. I think I was supposed to come on like the Monday, and I managed to get you on the Wednesday or Thursday. And when I arrived, we drove up here, and I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. I'll spend some time here. But in the garden, there was guys wearing, I think Grant was wearing like this tight red vest with tight things. Ross had this afro wig on, and I thought, oh my God, this is a nut house. And I just thought, anyway, if they've got meds, I'll take some meds and I'll just chill out, you know. But I think from the moment I got in here, from those 8 o'clock morning meetings, to the sponsor I had, to all the counselors that I spoke to, every single one that I spoke to just seemed to open a door for me, just seemed to unlock some kind of feeling inside myself. Everything was perfect. The way things happened, the things that people said to me just seemed to fall in line just at exactly the right time. And for me, the icebreaker for me was, I think something happened. I had to confess that what I was doing at work, and I told my mom, and I told my wife, and I told my friend that I was actually stealing from, and they said, you know what, Lee, we forgive you, just come sober. And I broke down in tears. I just cried and cried. I went up to my room, and something sucked me to the floor, you know, but not like just like a little tear. I sobbed my heart out, you know, and every time I tried to stand up, something sucked me back down to the ground. And I just cried and cried for so long, and that for me was that moment where I was like, you know, I've got to change this. I've got to to do this? What do I have to do to change this? I'm very grateful for that moment. And everything since then, sometimes it seems like 5 seconds ago that I had my last hit, and sometimes it seems like a lifetime ago. I complain sometimes, my job this and my job that, but in reality, I shouldn't really care about things God's not going to ask me when I die. If God's not going to ask me that question, why do I even concentrate on it? Why do I care if I'm good at my job? Why do I care if I look smart? Why do I care about anything, He's not going to ask me what I did in my life. He's going to ask me, what value did you bring to the lives around you, What did you bring to the party? And He's not going to ask any other question. And I focus my entire life on questions He's not going to ask me. So that's kind of like the focus for me, is to concentrate on those other things, on my wife, on my kids, on the people around me, trying to make decent conversation, trying to listen. I'm a terrible listener. I'm an awful listener. Like, if I watch myself having a conversation, if I'm having a conversation and I pull myself out, I don't even want to hear what you're saying. It's just like, I'm just waiting to say what I want to say, but at least this program allows me to try and adjust that. And 37 years of being wrapped around this pole, and then now unwinding it and wrapping it on that pole, it's difficult, and it won't be 1 year. 1 year is nothing. I'm not going to change my thought pattern in 1 year. I'm still selfish. I'm still jealous. I'm still greedy, But at least I have people to help me. I've got my sponsors. I've got this program. So not a very long share, guys. Sorry. That's pretty much all I got. So thanks very much. Thank you to this program. Thank you to this house and to the counselors and to all of my sponsors that have helped me. So.